Continuation of the previous session. Okay, we saw what artificial neural networks are. A single perceptron, okay, where we had the given input. Okay, we have all the input data where each input data is associated with its weights. We had a pre-activation function, an activation function. After that, we get from that threshold value, whatever we considered, we got the output, and based on the output, how many number of classes of categories it has, you will get the values out of it. Right now we had yes or no in the example that we saw. So it is two classes. Yes is one class, no is the other class, and we got the output for that. Okay, that was a basic introduction about artificial neural networks. Okay, what are its applications? Let's go ahead in general terms. I just don't want this to come ahead. Okay, theoretical stuff. Let's have something very practical, because this is something where we encounter it into our day-to-day activities. Okay, what are the applications of neural networks? One after the other. Let's have an interactive session. Okay, at least let's see, discuss about what are the practical applications. Where do we encounter these artificial neural networks? Where are we encountering this?
Like any websites, like where we have to take decision.
Okay, where we have to take decisions. Example? Okay, I'll give you an example now.
Like Flipkart.
Come on, go ahead.
Voice recognition.
Like Flipkart. Okay.
Okay. So let us consider ourselves who are very interested in shopping all time. Okay. So what we would do is we would like to see some product and we go ahead with. There is something where you incorporate, okay, we will be worried about the price. Every human being, it's a human tendency as well. You look at the price of it. Okay. Wherever you get in a lesser price, you go and opt that site. Don't we do that? How do we get to know? Okay, compare between each and every site. You get the dialog box, right? When you are opening a website and you are trying to search for it. Okay, when you put it into Google, it will tell at Amazon this is the price of the product, at Flipkart this is, at Myntra this is the price, the best feasible price is this. Would you want to check? This is a new site that has come up with. You get the details of it. So what we do is, it is our curiosity to find, okay, which site you have more lesser price. We go ahead and we book it or we order it, right? So the behind strategy of it, comparing with the other sites, or again, as I told, similar products. Okay, you might like this product. How do they get to know that you might like this product? It's basically on how you purchase an item. So upon that, you will get to know that. The frequently purchased item, what are its main features, and it compares with the other categories of it, and it will display us the products, or it will tell you, see, these are the products a few of our customers are identified and they have thought that it is very useful. Would you like to see this as well? You get two columns. When you're shopping, you'll have below two: recently reviewed or recently viewed by the other customers, or some product recommendations for you. So you have different categories that it gives you out, right? Some other example? Yes, go ahead. Vishal, you were trying to tell something.
I told voice recognition, ma'am.
Sorry?
Voice recognition.
Voice recognition. Yes, very true. Hey Google, Alexa, you want to play some music at home? You call, you just tell Alexa, play some music. It would go ahead. Again, we are so lazy to get up in the morning and to switch off our alarms, and we tell Google, turn off the alarm. We do that, right? Every activities of us, yes, we do it. So we ask Google or the corresponding Siri, you tell, okay, please go ahead. Right? Don't we? Or when you're driving, you just put on your Bluetooth and you try to call someone, you tell Google, can you call so and so person? You all do that, right? Yes, some other example?
Image recognition.
Image recognition. True. Any example for that?
Google Lens.
Google?
Google Lens.
Google Lens. Okay.
Find the similar product.
Okay, okay, nice. Something else?
Augmented reality.
Augmented reality, yes. This is something very interesting for each and every one of us, right? What do we do in augmented reality? Yes, Nathan, go ahead.
So basically, we enable cameras to display the objects in the any room to see how the object looks like with the help of machine learning. So this is it's really helpful for if you want to put objects if you're going to a new home and see how the furniture looks like, or you can play some games in your home and many other things. You can save. It's very efficient to save money.
Very true, very true. Your interior designing, everything, your architecture. Example is your architecture as well. Okay, you just would like to know, okay, when I do some changes like this, how does it look? Okay, so interior designing, any kind of example, the lens cut. Okay, I don't know whether this frame will fit me or not. So when you just look at a camera, okay, and when they start putting your, I mean, though you do not have a virtual, okay, you do not wear it practically, experiencing the look and feel, but still your image can wear it and it will tell you the augmented reality of it. You'll get to know, okay, whether the frame suits me or not, right? Some more examples, interesting examples, please.
Ma'am, I was reading this recent article where a medical study where whole body is augmented so that medical students can learn it from home. There's a new technology coming up where they can slice them using augmented technology where they can see each part individually.
Very true, very true. That is actually a quite development that's happening with respect to medical sciences, because every time, you know, like when you have to get to know how the bisections are happening or what are the internal organs, how are they functioning and how it has, normally simulations happen and the practical sessions are very less comparatively, but now they're actually trying to go ahead more on simulations to have a very good hands on for each and every student, that is with respect to medical sciences, because that has a lot of vast area in research and development. Very true. Yes. Some more? Few more, any of the other examples we can quote for?
I had watched a video about deep fakes.
Akila, a little bit louder, please.
Can you hear me, ma'am? Now?
Yeah, a bit better.
Yeah. So it was about deep fake, where where there was an instructor, and then behind the instructor there was the background where Einstein's picture was there. So when the instructor is talking, the lip syncing is done by Einstein in the background, using deep fakes.
True. It is one of the very good example. Good, Akila. It is one of the very good example. Yes. This normally does happen also when we try to do it in your phones, right? Every one of us, we like to take pictures and add different kinds of patterns onto our pictures. And when we are talking also, you have a different sync of it that happens, right? So all of these things, like you are trying to make the system learn out of it, and you're trying to come up with something like how you do it, even your machine is also trying to do it. Okay, so this is again very good examples. Okay, so I've just written the crisp picture over here with respect to whatever we have discussed now. Applications of neural networks, classification. Okay, this is a very basic one which we use. Different types of classes that we want to categorize to. So the basic classification problems, any classification problems that come under, okay, you can use artificial neural networks to go ahead. Pattern matching, to produce the best pattern with respect to the input vector. Okay, I give you certain pattern and I tell you, okay, this is what I want, the design of my bag. Okay, I want the design of my shoe. I'm a sports person and I want to have, I do run a lot. Okay, so I would like to know, okay, due to my orientation of my leg, okay, which way is my pressure going to be more high? Okay, the slanting. So there's a terminology which they state out. Okay, so based on that is what, okay, you can fit your the shoe model, okay, according to it. Okay, what are the other type of patterns that you have? Okay, identifying with respect to, so that comes under one part of it. Okay, pattern matching. Pattern completion, okay, to compute the missing parts of the given input vector. In case you have some missing vectors, okay, you do not you do not know what it actually the point in which where you the exact parameter of it is not known to you, but still you're trying to come up with a pattern for that. Okay, so that is one of the method, the pattern completion. Optimizations, to find the optimal values of parameters in an optimization problem. Okay, so this we are also seeing most of our cases. Okay, optimizations, how we can come to an optimal solution, the best price that I want. Okay, I'll just find out which is best among and I'll try to book it out. Okay, and the function approximation, it is to learn the functional relationship between the input and the desirable outputs. Yes, I'm trying to find out an input. Okay, this is what I'm going to give. I give a new test instance and see what exactly I'll get an output for. Okay, a function approximation. So we've already read about all of these things in our introduction to machine learning as well. Okay, and the data mining here, it is to discover the hidden patterns from the input data. Okay, you just have the data out of it. You have huge chunks of data. How do you get to know whether the data that is coming out, you know, like we give just our email IDs anywhere, wherever we go. And you get so many emails, and some of the emails, how is it categorized that they are spam? You need to know, okay, whether these data, so based on the type of data, okay, the pattern that it has, it identifies whether it belongs to a spam or to the normal email, which is very most important, a starred. Okay, so all of these things, this is every day we encounter this in our day-to-day activities. Okay, so some they might use different technologies involved into it, they might use a different pattern recognition systems or something, but the most base is, okay, when you have to come up with a way of thinking, mission to think and go ahead, ANNs are the leading most, or I can tell the artificial neural networks are having their developments going ahead. One more example is the automated driving systems. Okay, you need to get to know when you have to apply a brake. You need to get to know, okay, when there is a zebra line, what you have to do, when there's a signal which is put up to you, how you need to sense each and everything, identify, okay, what is happening. And then an example, okay, one more example, during your traffic signals also, you observed it? Because immediately when you have a red signal, there will be an image. If you have crossed the zebra line or something, your image is being captured and you get a notice given to you telling that you had violated the traffic rules. Okay, so IoT is involved. That's what I told. There are the other components also that gets involved along with it, but ANNs are one of the part most, like the additional component which actually helps every other component to work. Okay, so this is about the applications and what are the appropriate problems for the neural network learning. Okay, why neural networks? Okay, when I tell neural networks, why neural networks, what are its capabilities? Okay, what are its disadvantages? So this is some of the capabilities of neural network learning. And instances which are represented by an attribute value pair. We have already seen what an attribute value pair is, right? A friend of mine wants to enjoy the sports. We have, okay, when I tell temperature, the temperature might be sunny or rainy, right? It's an attribute. Temperature is the attribute and the value pair is sunny or rainy. Okay, so something like that. So it has an input value. It can be real numbers or real values as well. The input attributes may be highly correlated or independent to one another. Even if it is highly correlated, it is fine. If it is independent to one another, yes. But my system is ready to learn it. It is ready to train. And upon the testing, it can perform well. So I can do that. So that is basically what we perform over here. The target function output may be discrete valued, real valued, or the vector with real or discrete valued attributes. It can have anything. It can have a real valued also. Like as I tell, yes, no. It can have a probability value. It can have a continuous value. My system is ready to go ahead. ANNs have the capability of going ahead with it. You have multi-class classification, single classification, like the binary classification, multi-class classification. It can perform regression. All of those are one of few of the capabilities of artificial neural networks. Okay. And there are a concept like softmax function, which is involved where the negativities of it is removed. So it's an added on. I'll let you know what a softmax function is. Why do we actually need to use softmax function? Okay. So it is used in ANNs as well as deep learning. So each output is a real number between 0 and 1. Yes, we know that. Even when I consider the probabilities, the value is going to be between 0 and 1. The training examples may contain errors. Even if it has errors, ANNs can work well for that. The long training times are acceptable. You know, there are machines which work hours together to come up with a solution. This is true because when you're working on with huge data sets and when you work on with deep learning techniques, okay, ANNs is basically an extension with respect to, I mean, the deep learning is an extension to ANN. Okay, so when I have neural networks, the deep neural networks, when I consider, and in that, if I have to work for very long hours, in the sense, I have my model of the neural network so high that it may take hours together, because based on the training time, that is based on the number of epochs that I give, okay, the number of batch sizes, the timeline actually extends, and it is also dependent on the system, the configuration of the system you're working on. Okay, but it has the capability to work long hours. Okay, so long training times are acceptable. The fast evaluation of learned target function may be required. Okay, the fast evaluation, though my training time is more, I just give one test instance, I'll get an immediate output of it. Training is the point where it takes a lot of time. Training a system is the most time utilization that happens, whereas testing is quite very less comparatively to training. Okay, so fast evaluation of the learned target function may be required. The ability of humans to understand the learned target function is not important, because the weights learned by the neural network are often difficult for humans to interrupt. You know, the initial example that I told was only one single neuron that we considered, and I had 3 different weights associated with it. In real world or in the practical scenarios, you will not just see only one single neuron. You might have n number of input neurons, n number of hidden neurons, n number of output neurons. In that n number of layers of neurons. So I'm telling there could be multiple neurons with n number of layers. Okay, when you look at, there are some of the pre-trained models. Okay, if I have to tell certain examples, like you have GoogleNet, AlexNet, you have DenseNet, you have NASNet, Inception v3. All of these, they might have like, okay, only the convolutional layers, they might have, suppose, like more than 150, 200. DenseNet, it has 250, NASNet. So their numbers, the number of layers are very high. To the total, if we consider from the starting layer to the end layer, there could be thousands of layers in between them. Okay, so it depends upon the model that we select. As I told you, so for each and every layer, okay, you imagine, you just imagine for yourself input. Okay, I have multiple hidden layers. Okay, and I have the output. These hidden layers, suppose I have 500 hidden layers in this, and I have suppose 100 neurons with this. Each and every neuron, if it is connected, if, okay, there's one more term called as fully connected neural network. Okay, partially connected neural net, fully connected neural network. Each input neuron will be fully connected to each and every other neuron present in the layer. Or partially is, okay, whichever I want, I will take that neuron. Basically, your images, okay, images, most of the time they take the partial, like you do not take the fully connected layer, or only the last layer before the output layer, you'll have a fully connected layer. But most of the other layers, they are not fully connected. Okay, so now I'll tell, but still you need to have a connection between each and every. So I'll have multiple neurons in one single layer. A similar, I have 500 layers. So you'll have so many networks, that is the connections between that. Each connection will have a weight. So if you imagine that 100 neurons connected to the first layer having 100 neurons, how many you'll get? 100 into 100. The connection is going to be 100 weights for the first layer. That will be connected, okay? It's if I'm taking only 1 to 1. If I'm taking it as fully connected, 100 cross 100 only for the first. The second hidden layer, again, it is having 100 neurons, and again, it is a fully connected layer. So it's going to have 100 cross 100. 100 cross 100 into 500. What will be the weights of it? Does the human brain actually get to know these weights? And every time can it calculate so much? But your machine does it. Your machine will calculate each and every weight. It will update each and every weight. And it will perform. The computation is very high. We agree the computation is very high because every time it updates its weights, it takes time. That is what I tell. It takes hours together to perform an operation. Yes, it takes time, but still it has the ability to keep all the data in it. But our human brains, we cannot update the weights. That is what I'm telling. The weights learned by the network are often difficult for humans to interpret. For us, even to identify, okay, when I tell WIJK, only IJK, I is the correct input, the neuron, what is the number, which layer it is going to, which layer it is connected to, and what is its weight. But tracking that itself for 100 neurons, it goes away from our mind. Okay, we have to keep searching where it is coming. But the machine can automatically create in a matrix format and it will have all the data available to you. Okay, so the ability of humans to understand the learn target function is not important. We normally don't look at what are the weights, what are its biases. We don't. Only thing is what we do is we train the system, we get the output or not, we look at it. But the machine has the ability to do that. Okay. Though the human brains are very fast in taking decisions, true, but memorizing part, yes, we do some things. Okay, this is how we train the system for. But as I told you, with respect to weights, identifying from where to where the connection has happened, we take some time, but the machine is more faster in that. Okay, so this is about certain capabilities of or certain problems which artificial neural networks can encounter. Okay, so this is about it. Then we have what a perceptron is. Okay, how does a perceptron look like? We have already discussed a single neuron, the first basic unit of it, what we consider is a perceptron. Okay, the basic unit of the artificial neural network is called a perceptron, that is able to classify the input data into two classes, either yes or no. We have seen the given example that we had saw, right? So we had one single, we had multiple inputs given to it. The output of it is either yes or no. That's a very basic unit of artificial neural networks, which is a perceptron. Okay, a perceptron takes a vector of real values. Any input value that is real, okay, you can apply, or a random number. Sometimes initialize certain numbers can be 0 as well. Okay, yes, the values of real input values. It calculates a linear combination of these input values, then outputs a 1 if the result is greater than some threshold, else -1 otherwise. This is what we performed here earlier. What did I do? I performed my CIE 1, I performed my CIE 2, and based on the ways, okay, I performed, I mean, we calculated the average of it by taking the summation value of it. I took the summation value based on the weights, I got 38 marks, but the actual value for me to pass is 35. That is my threshold criteria. Theta or theta j is my threshold criteria. Okay, that threshold criteria is what is my activation function. Upon the activation function, it told me that below 35 you are fail, above 35 you are pass. My category that I got was my marks is 38. 38 is greater than 35, so it is pass. So it is checking that condition. If the condition is true, it will give 1. If the condition is false, it will give -1. That is what I'm writing it over here. The pictorial representation of this form, whatever we have done here, okay, the example that I've indicated over here, I'm writing a definition for it. Okay, I'm writing it in terms of an equation telling that I have the output of the input x1 to xn. Okay, this is my output. O of x1 to xn is equal to 1 if W0 is the BIOS, the constant that what we consider W0 plus W1 into X1, W2 into X2, the weight 1 of my first internals, which is X1, the weight 2 of my second internals X2, so on up to my quiz 1, quiz 2, my assignments. I consider everything. If the value is greater than 0, then it is 1, otherwise minus 1. This is my criteria, okay? I have a criteria here, a threshold value. If it satisfies that threshold value, it is obviously going to be 1. If it is not, it is minus 1. A simple interpretation, whatever we are trying to go ahead with the diagram, okay? The quantity, okay, the quantity here, okay, W0 is a threshold that the weighted combination of inputs must surpass in order for the perceptron to output a 1, okay? So what are we doing here is, by mathematical terms, we consider this to be as our threshold. When we are writing it, we are not writing, okay, this completely, if it is greater than W0. Rather than that, okay, I'm putting this value over here, so it becomes minus W0 is basically the threshold. What am I talking about? When you're writing it mathematically, this is how we write it. Okay, so W0 is basically the threshold, or we call it to be as the BIOS. Okay, so this is what we consider here, so that the entire value of it, it tends to 1 when we are displaying it based on the condition. Okay. So I'm just going to write this equation over here, whatever we have encountered. Output is O of x1 to xn. I'm writing it directly as x bar. Okay. Output x bar is equal to, if I'm taking a sigmoid function, because, okay, I'll tell you what the threshold value is, what function will I be using for that activation function. I'm just writing it as sigmoid for now. The weights, whatever I have weights, into my input values, my weights into my input values. This becomes my output of that particular x, what I'm considering. Okay, here x is basically from 1 to n. Again, here also x is basically from 1 to n. The weights also, it's going to be from 1 to n, its corresponding weights. Okay. So the types of perceptron, you have a single layer perceptron, you have multi-layer perceptrons as well. Okay, we'll go one after the other. What is single layered? What is multi-layered perceptrons? Okay, so a single layered perceptron, I'm just giving you a picture here. Okay, it's a similar one, but I've split here the pre-activation and the activation function. What was pre-activation function that we discussed? If you can memorize your part, what is pre-activation and activation function?
Summation of the products of the input and the weight will be the pre-activation function. The activation will be the threshold value.
Yes, thank you. So, as we told, this is going to be my pre-activation. I'm writing it into two separate things, okay? But actually, one single neuron will have a pre-activation and activation together, okay? So this is the pre-activation function. And this is my activation function, where I call it to be as a threshold logic unit. TLU is the threshold logic unit. What is my threshold condition that I'm going to consider? Okay, whether it is a sigmoid curve, it is telling me that I want it to range from 0 to 1. I don't want it just to tell me either 0 or 1. Okay, when I tell it is a step function, the step function is basically 0 or 1. Until this value, it's going to be 0. Beyond this value, it will go to 1. So I'll tell from 0 to 35, all the values will be 0. From 35 to 100, all the values should be 1. This is my step function. Okay, so this is how your step function works. Your sine function, suppose I wanted something to be displayed as -1 and +1. I'm going to use a sine function for that. A sigmoid function, when I wanted to range from 0 to 1, the probability values of it, I wanted to get a linear regression line and I want the probabilities of it. So I'm going to tell it it's going to lie from 0 to 1. Whatever the values I get from there, just assign it to 0, 1. Further, I'll do the thresholding, okay? But right now I'll get it between the 0 and 1. You consider that. So I'll give a sigmoid function where the values of it lies from 0 to 1. Okay, these are few of the activation functions which we commonly use with respect to the threshold logic unit. Most of the time we'll be using this. There sometimes you use tanh function, okay. Sometimes, yeah, sigmoid function, sometimes the step function. There are few more, okay, which we use commonly, but these are the very most frequently used. Right now in the module 4, we'll be using these functions for the threshold logic unit. That's the activation function. We know the pre-activation is basically the summation. It is with respect to the input and the weights. So all time it is going to be here. The Q bias is what I called it to be as the threshold value here. Okay. The threshold value is basically this forms my bias value here. This is my bias. Q bias. It is applied to each and every neuron. This will be applied to each and every neuron. Whatever I consider, to each and every neuron, this will be applied. So this is basically my W0. So this weight is what has been happening. So this is going to be the B value or the W0 or C value, whatever you consider. This is going to be that. And these are the inputs and these are the weights that has been associated to it, the pre-activation, the activation, the threshold logic unit, which has all of these things, and the final output yi. Okay, so yi, you can see the output is dependent on 1 if this summation is greater than 0 or if it is -1 otherwise. I've written this over here with respect to yi, the output condition. We already encountered that as well, the output condition. So the output is equal to 1 if the summation, if it is greater than 0, if it is -1 otherwise. So if it means it is less than 0 or less than equal to 0, all it is going to come under -1 category. Since if it is greater than 0, it is all going to come for 1. Okay. So this is about a simple, that is a single layer perceptron representation. This is one single perceptron with respect to pre-activation and the activation function. Okay, so we can see multiple layer perceptrons, but meanwhile, I'll just give you a description about what this threshold unit is about. I've just written few points over here. So the threshold logic unit in a single layer perceptron, in order to compute the input neurons along with its weights, the perceptron used TLU in order to accurate with the expected output. See, basically, as I told you, I have certain inputs. I need certain output. There should be a medium where it takes these input values and it tries to transform it to give it to the output value. That actual value of utilization, okay, whatever we consider it, is basically done using this threshold logic unit. Okay. So here again, I've told you some of the types of it. I've already discussed about the step, the sine, and the sigmoid. Okay. How does the TLU works? As follows. How does it work? Okay. If the input of the summation, okay, is greater than or less than expected output, it performs the following steps. This same, I've written it over here. Okay. This part, the output part, whatever is happening, and the step function is happening. But how does it tell that, okay, we are going ahead with the correct classification or not? You have to update your weights. Okay. We have to do that. Every time when we are performing it, we have to do the updations, the weight updations. For that, what we do is, see, the output must be assigned using any of the 3 TLU functions. We have the 3 functions over here, the sine, the step, or sigmoid. Any of the function it has to take. The output is adjusted. Again, keep it in mind. The output is adjusted using any of these 3 TLU functions and by using a weight adjustment. Suppose example is, I had a first test instance, okay, the testing instance, it tells me the output is yes, but when I give the same test instance to the model, okay, to the one single perceptron model, it is telling it as no. which means I cannot just leave it like that because the predicted output is no. The actual value of it is yes. Where I have to adjust now is basically its weights with respect to the input. The predicted output minus the target value, I have to get the least value. Now, right now, I'm not getting it. It has total opposite value. One has yes, one has no. To overcome that, I have to update the weights, okay? Whatever the output that I have got is actually to be adjusted with one of these 3 units by using the weights. I have to update its weights and the x. How do I update it? I update it using this equation. I've directly written down this equation, but we will be deriving this equation. We'll have a derivation of this equation, a gradient descent and the delta rule. We have a derivation, we'll do it in the upcoming classes, okay? I've just written it down over here. Wi, the weight update for each and every input. I suppose I have xi to xn, wi to wn, it can be anywhere, okay? So wi is equal to what is the learning rate of it? Whether you wanted to fastly update it or whether you want to go it in baby steps, okay? The learning rate of it, which is given by this theta n, okay? So T is the target value minus the current output that I've got into the input value, okay? Each and every weight is being updated like this. Whatever the target value that I have to the output value with respect to the input, your weights are adjusted based on the learning rate, okay? So T is the target, small constant, that's the learning rate, and the perceptron output. So this is how your weights are updated with respect to the TLU. From the transfer logic, actually it depends on your output. So if you have something going wrong with the output, you have to adjust its weights, and the weights are adjusted using this mechanism, okay? Do you have any doubts here? You might be wondering, okay, why did these values come over here? Okay, I was trying to solve one of the example over here, like using an AND gate and OR gate, okay? The next class, I'll give you a detailed simulation. We're trying to go ahead with the simulation of this model, okay? So in the Saturday's class, we'll have a simulation model that we'll go ahead, okay? Here, I'm just trying to get an AND gate where I have 3 inputs for it, okay? 001, 010, 110. I'm trying to add 2 values of it. Let me check what will be my output. Okay, so this is about one example. I had just given certain weights for that and I was trying out. We'll go ahead with the simulation part. I'll let you know with the simulation part in the upcoming week. Upcoming class, sorry. We have 1 more minute for the Zoom meeting to get closed. We'll come back and we'll just go ahead with this perceptron training rule. What is the training rule of it? We have already discussed over here the same equation. I'm just writing it over here. Okay, so I'll let you know what that training rule is. It will take only a few minutes. We'll finish that.